Paula Ashe. She had some short fiction make the Bram Stoker list this year. She's excellent. She's working on her doctorate degree. She teaches.
Obviously, it's the worst.
Yeah, she teaches writing, and she writes horror. And we are so lucky to get her here today because she is one very busy woman. And Paula's horror is what I call literary horror. It has a sneaky way of kind of getting into the back of your mind and stay there. And you don't know that it's there until you reach the end of the story and the climax, and you find out what's going on. And then you got to get up and go for a walk. She's excellent. And thank you, Paula, for coming up and meeting next. No pressure. We're among friends here.
All right. How's it going, everybody?
Pretty good.
All right. Thank you very much, James, for such a lovely introduction and for organizing this reading. I first sent a story to James in 2011, I think, for Indiana Science Fiction. It's an annual publication, and for 2011, I submitted something. There's a copy of it right over there. And I was really nervous. I've always written dark fiction. But I went to graduate school the first time, and while I was in graduate school, I didn't write very much creative fiction, but I wrote a little because, you know, when you're a writer, you have that compulsion, you just can't help it. So when I graduated, I finally decided, you know, I was teaching full time. And with that, you know, that compulsion to write and the, you know, aspiration to publish was still very strong. So I didn't remember how I stumbled across the call for fiction for Indiana Science Fiction in 2011, but I remember very clearly. It was very late on a Saturday night. It was right before the deadline, and I had the email, I had the attachment of the story sent and everything. I just sat and I stared at that email for, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes because I was too nervous to just click send, and because I'm really bad at rejection. I'm getting better because I'm getting more, but I was terrified, and I think like within 15 minutes after I hit the send button, James had emailed me and was just like, yes, and that was really like a big boost for me in terms of my confidence, and you know, I mean, again, I can't say thank you enough for that. So what I'm going to read today is an excerpt from my novella that appears in Four Ghosts, along with work by Murphy Edwards, Christine Sutton, and William Cook, and it's a fantastic collection. My novella is called Mater Nihil, I think. Nobody speaks Latin, so but I have a fascination with that particular language, and what the title. Well, is anybody familiar with the Latin language by any chance?
Is that Mother of Nothing or something?
Very good, well done. Yeah, most people are like, well done. Yeah, most people are like, is it about tomatoes? I don't know. I'm like, no, that doesn't even make any sense. But it's Mother of Nothing, and so I've been trying to figure out which part I'm going to read, and I think what I'm going to read will be I'm going to read the first chapter of this novella, and at this point in the story, there's this sort of cosmic entity that has entered the world and is doing some bad things. We'll see what they are as the story continues. And in particular, the bad thing that has happened to this suburban family named the Kirklands. And the chapter opens with a detective, a homicide detective in Boston. The story takes place in Boston, who is getting ready to enter into the crime scene with a woman who claims to be an empath. So she's somebody who has psychic abilities, in particular the ability to read people's emotions very well, almost to the point of being telepathic. And he's a total skeptic. He just doesn't believe in that at all. So, so this is the first chapter from Modern Nihil. Detective Tom McBride stays in the driveway of the trendy suburban man, squinting his eyes from the blazing and bitter October sun. At the driveway, his younger partner, Asher Corsino, escorts the psychic from the passenger seat of his Mustang, and the two amble up the driveway, shoulders hunched in the cold, steaming paper cups clenched in their hands. He spits into the frost-coated yard. Above them, the sky stretches out in desolate, whitish-gray waves. Dead leaves clatter against the pavement. Their slow, languid amble makes McBride's teeth itch. How dare they be so goddamn chipper after his ransacked morning? A grateful bachelor, McBride shares his modest townhome with a surly French bulldog named Saxby. Sunday is a day of rest for the detective and his dog. He has no overt spiritual beliefs, but he does appreciate the normalizing influence religious institutions provide the masses. He does, however, believe in normality and order, two traits that make him a particularly effective homicide detective. Solving the puzzle of a murder is often a matter of recognizing the anomalies and outliers hidden in the patterns of a person's life. Whatever happened to the Kirkmans is unlike anything he has ever seen in his 6 years in homicide. Sunday is a day meant to spend in monastic contemplation of the self, of seeking that comforting uniformity of being that to some seemed like emptiness. It is the best sort of paradise, the kind unmarred by another living soul. It is the thing he anticipates every week, and on those very rare occasions when his leisure is interrupted, the days that follow find him more irritable and withdrawn than usual. When Captain Landry called him at 7:16 a.m. this morning to ask him to play chaperone at a crime scene he's still trying to forget, with his rookie partner and a Charlotte in the boot, it took all he knew of silence to not curse the woman out. He arrived at 3842 Sawmill Lane 20 minutes ago to collect the keys from an on-duty patrol officer with nothing better to do in the placid environs of one of Boston's most affluent suburbs. After waiting for 15 minutes in his idling sedan, somehow incapable of finding a temperature that didn't make his toes freeze and his ears sweat or his palms damp and his ears frigid, he got out of the car and stood on the street. "Good morning, McBride." Corsino holds out a paper cup. Hands fisted in his coat pocket, he huffs at his partner. "You do realize I've been here longer than you. If I wanted something, I could have gotten it already." Corsino's handsome smile wilts from his face, and McBride is suddenly warmed by a flush of pleasure. "Besides, I don't drink coffee anyway." Asher shuffles his feet in what McBride suspects is some gesture meant to draw attention to his sexual organs, obscenely outstretched by the rough fabric of his perfectly fitted jeans. What an asshole. "I know you don't drink coffee. It's hot chocolate." The wind picks up and slices through the sensible layers of his clothing, shoves a savory whisper of warm chocolate into his face. He feels like a leash dog as his mouth fills with saliva. "Oh, hell." McBride mutters and takes the cup from Asher's bare hand. Before allowing him the pleasure of that first sip, he glances at the ground, then to the air between Asher and the psychic's shoulders. "Thanks." The burn of shame is strong, but quickly turns tepid after the first sip. Had he been alone or with Sax, he would have groaned with uncharacteristically unrestrained pleasure. Instead, he clears his throat and slips back into the armor of his aloof indifference. Corsino nods. "No problem. This," he gestures toward the psychic, "is Samira Kryliak. Did Landry already fill you in about her?" The psychic's hair is short, choppy, floppy, and foppish. Crow's wing black, wild in a variety of lengths, some strands falling past her shoulders right next to patches shorn so closely McBride can almost imagine the tickly prickle of the wiry hairs on his palms. The woman is ethnic. Her last name certainly came from Eastern Europe, but her caramel cream complexion belies a heritage bloom from far sunnier locales. Exotic by some standards, her skin is strangely lustrous in the gray prison of the morning. She wears scuffed all to hell military boots with frayed shoelaces, black cargo pants with the hems tucked behind the loose tongue of her shoes, a black leather belt dotted with vicious-looking spikes, a gray-hooded sweatshirt, and a creased biker jacket adorned with patches and buttons displaying a cacophony of lewd, disturbing, and at times repugnant phrases, images, and symbols. Gathered around her neck are chains and links of silver and steel, pendants of semi-precious stones peeking above her collar. The psychic's facial features are a cross between feline and impossible. Pointed chin, full mouth, average nose, and this is what makes his guts flip. Almond-shaped eyes with irises the color of electric violet. Such a color does not exist in nature. Framed by wisps of altered black hair, her eyes are preternaturally still, and once he is looking into them, he realizes with a flush of embarrassment that he cannot stop. McBride. He has never been more thankful for the junior detective's voice. He blinks. Did she? At all? Even once? And averts his eyes back to the space between their shoulders. Sorry, Landry gave me a few details. I still think this is ridiculous. She has somehow bested him with her mesmeric eyes, and it stings like a lash against wet skin. It is as if his inability to pull away on his own volition somehow gives her the power that was stolen from him. McBride is being juvenile, but he feels edgy, distracted, consumed. For what it's worth, the psychic doesn't even flinch. Asher, however, puffs up like a rooster. Well, one detail I'm sure she made clear is that for the duration of Mrs. Curley's assistance with this investigation, we are to do whatever we reasonably can to help her. McBride nods. Right. Let's get this done. Taking a sip of his marvelously smooth drink, he fishes the house keys from his jacket pocket. Inserting the key in the lock, he tries to ignore the mumbling whispers from behind him. The tumbler catches, the bolt slips from its casing. He grimaces as a wave of nausea ripples through his viscera. He pushes the door, and through the black crack of the threshold's opening comes a whisper of cold air carrying the corrosive stink of bleach and the coppery tang of dried blood. Upon Jason Kirkland's return to Boston, his parents, siblings, and friends watched him to ensure he didn't return to his home where his wife killed his dog, his son, and then herself. 2 days after his return, he is missing. Plainclothes officers and patrols comb the area in case he comes back to 3842 Salmon Lane. So far, no one has seen him. It is like he slipped into some sinkhole in the world never to be found again. McBride can't blame the guy. What else can anyone do with so much grief? The psychic woman can't give us any answers to the murder-suicides of mothers and their infants, he thinks. There are no answers, not in this world or the next. Of that, I am certain. That's chapter 1.